Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. Today's subject is nature and wildlife. Now, we've had some really long episodes recently, so today's target is just to do a bit of a shorter one, really focus in on today's topic, because the last couple of episodes, I've given you some upgrades to your transitions. I've given you some upgrades to your idioms, great ways to increase your lexical resource score. So do go back over them. Make sure you're applying it. You can apply it to today's questions with me. But yeah, we're going to keep it a bit shorter today and focus on nature and wildlife. There's some lovely words here, flora and fauna. We've got abundant, sanctuary, lovely words that can be found in the Total Speaking textbook. This is available at www.britplus.net, so head over there and get your copy, and I really hope that helps you on your journey to your IELTS dream score. So, as I said, we're going to keep it pretty simple. I have a student challenge for you firstly, and that is, where do you like to spend time in nature? This is a part 1 style question. Please answer in the comments on YouTube or Spotify. So being a part 1 style, you want to give a direct answer. I like to spend time in the local park, the nature reserve, the courtyard next to my house. Doesn't have to be a big deal. It could be my garden. And then give me some detail. Why do you like that place? What do you do in that place? Who do you spend time with in that place? So that's the type of answer I want to see, and I will check and give you some feedback. Let's start today's part 1 questions. And question 1 is, do you enjoy spending time in nature? Yeah, I really enjoy spending time in nature because I think it really helps clear my mind. I live in a city, Seoul, and it can get really stressful at times. There's a lot of concrete. So getting out among the flora and fauna is a nice way to de-stress. Have you ever been to a national park or nature reserve? Yeah, I've been to so many. I mean, so many. Perhaps the one that comes to my mind is the Lake District. The Lake District in the UK is the largest nature reserve, national park. National park is correct. And that is beautiful, famously beautiful. And it's a habitat for lots of different types of animals, birds, lots of sheep and goats and horses and things like that. So that's my favorite national park. Okay, good start. I think we used a little bit of language already. And now we're going to go to part 2. Let's see. Describe a memorable experience you had in nature. Okay. Memorable experience in nature. Okay, let's talk about Korea today. 2 minutes on the clock. My time starts now. I'd like to tell you about when I climbed Sorak Mountain. About 3 or 4 years ago, I went with my father. He came to Korea and we went to the east coast of Korea to climb the 3rd biggest mountain in South Korea, and it's called Sorak Mountain. It's not too hard. It's not notoriously dangerous or anything like that. But it's a beautiful mountain. Lots of incredible rock formations and trees, and a really beautiful mountain. And we decided to climb it in summer, which is the wet season in South Korea. So let me tell you a little bit more about this day where I climbed Sorak Mountain with my father. As we got to the top of the mountain, we realized that there was some pretty heavy rain moving in. And before we got to the top, we actually decided to turn back because it seemed to be getting dangerous. The rain was getting harder. you could see the kind of erosion where the rain was trickling down, and there had obviously been a lot of rain over the past weeks, and we decided this could be dangerous. Now, as we came down the mountain, it got much, much heavier. I mean, torrential rainfall, and it did become exceptionally dangerous. I mean, there were rivers that were being created in that moment, coming down the mountain, and our path was becoming a river itself. And then as we dropped down into the valley to get to the car park, I mean, we were wading through water. It was okay. Okay, well, obviously that was a comfortable one for me to talk about because it was true. Now, the weakness of that, and I often say this, is whenever I have a good story, I often get quite passionate and enthusiastic about the story, and I forget to use the language. So when I look at today's language, I didn't use enough of it in that part 2, so we're going to have to do that in part 3. But that was a true story. It was kind of a scary experience, but a very memorable one as well. Okay, part 3. Question 1. What are the main threats to wildlife in your country? I think that there's a few different problems in Korea. Firstly, poaching historically has been an issue. I think nowadays that's changing. The issue used to be, there were hunting bears, these beautiful bears that were getting hunted for health benefits to humans. Horrible, awful. There was a lot of poaching of things like wild pigs and deer, but I think the government is slowly getting on top of that now. Another issue, again, kind of historically, has been erosion because of the removal of trees. However, I do notice nowadays trees seem to be abundant in South Korea, and the conservation of these areas of trees and the forest has been a real focus point, and I think they've recovered a lot. Next question. Do you think it's more important to protect local wildlife or global wildlife? Well, I think that both are important, but for the sake of this answer, I think the most important thing is to focus on what you can control, which is the local wildlife. And if we all do that, the global wildlife will benefit. So I think we need to do whatever we can to preserve the habitat in our local area. And on an individual level, that means taking care of the environment, staying on the paths that are designated, not going off the path and causing more erosion, and not littering, very importantly, don't litter. So, and then, of course, doing things to make sure I think litter is important when we talk about wildlife and the damage we can do to the animals. So these things, you take care in your local area, and that has an effect globally if everyone does it. Finally, what role do governments and organizations play in wildlife conservation? Well, I think the governments and organizations, on the one hand, they have to conserve and protect the wildlife and nature. But on the other hand, they have to try and give experiences to humans and allow humans to be in the forests, the meadows, whatever it is. So they are trying to balance giving humans experiences and seeing wildlife while protecting it. You can't just fence off everything. So I think creating paths, nature reserves, things like this in a sustainable manner, and preserving the nature as it is, allowing the animals to live there as they would do, is the most important thing. And of course, ensuring that poaching doesn't occur. That's a big issue. You see that in Africa. I saw a picture recently of, I think there's 2 white rhinos remaining in the world, and they have 24-hour bodyguards surrounding the white rhinos so that they don't get poached. So incredibly sad that we're in that position, but it's great that that effort is being made. Good. Okay, that's the kind of part 3 I want to hear, by the way, from myself as well, is that, I give a direct answer, I give detail, and then I finish with a really specific example. In this case, white rhinos, white rhinoceroses. So that's everything I have for today. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly did. And next week, we're going to be back to talk about a really, I think, an easy topic and lots of things we can talk about. It's neighborhood. So that's next week. But for this week, study ridiculously hard. And I'll see you next Monday to talk about neighborhood.